What up, everybody? I really struggled making this video for a few reasons. I have some unpopular opinions and was debating on whether or not I should talk about them because of them being unpopular. And this is random, by no ranking at all. It's just random thoughts. First one. And this is coming from a place of just taking a step back from everything. Like I said from last week, this has just been so much and seeing so much. And then the royal family thing made me happy. But in the same breath, it's just like, you know, I think it's unfair that light-skinned people have to choose. And this is the first unpopular opinion. I think it's unfair that we make light-skinned or mixed race or biracial people choose their ethnicity. I think that's so unfair. And so I saw someone on my timeline who's biracial, and he posted something and saying like, it's amazing how Meghan Markle is black now, you know, and basically insinuating like you're not black unless we're proud of you, or your blackness doesn't matter. And I can only imagine how it feels to be biracial, where, you know, there's the struggle of being black. There's also beauty in being black, but if you're biracial, you say if you're white and you're black, you have this privilege of being white, I guess, but not necessarily relating to that in its entirety. And then you have this, I feel it's a privilege to be black, but you also have this privilege of being white, and you can't even relate to that in its entirety. And so I guess like while I was excited for what I saw as representations of blackness at the royal wedding, I still think it's unfair that we make biracial children choose races, and we celebrate them here, but then we ridicule them there, and I think that's unfair. Secondly, I saw another friend of mine post how if she posted something to the extent of, would you rather want a thug son and bail him out of jail or a gay son that was dressed in feminine? And that really just annoyed me, because it's like, I don't think people who can't fathom their child identifying with the LGBT community should have children. I think that there should be like a list of things, and if you can't handle your child being LGBT, trans, any of those things, if you can't handle them being a feminist, if you can't have them having a mind of their own outside of what you thought as the parent they should be, I don't think you should have kids. Like, it's detrimental to these children. There are thousands of homeless kids, LGBT children, because of that very same thought. Because, oh, my child, unfortunately, I had a family member say to me that, you know, they would kill one of their children if their child chose to dress feminine, and he's a boy. And it really, it struck a chord with me, because I feel like if you can't handle your child being unapologetically themselves, why would you have one? You get what I'm saying? And that's just another one. I just think that people should be a little bit more self-aware before they bring a child into the world, because it's very, very unhealthy to be homophobic and then turn around and then have a child that probably is a part of the LGBT community or any kind of community that isn't, you know, harming the detriment of other people. Nobody in the LGBT community is harming or oppressing anybody. They're just wanting to be themselves. And I don't understand the logic behind loving your child conditionally. I think that loving your child should be an unconditional act. And third, but also, I just want to say I think it's unfair how we completely cancel Chrisette Michele and Tina and them. While I don't mess with them and I don't like any of their rhetoric, but in the same breath gave some kind of life to Kanye West in hopes that he'll come back to us. But we completely canceled the women. And all Chrisette Michele did was secure a bag and sing at inauguration. And well, you know, Tina's reasoning, though she did not say it, was a little bit more deeper. She claimed she voted for Trump because of his Christian beliefs. But we all know it's because you homophobic, sis. And you can stay canceled. But I think that if in the same breath that we can still give humanity to Kanye West we can give humanity to Chrisette Michele. So as far as the Kanye West conversation and the Trump conversation goes, I'm indecisive. I'm neutral. I'm apathetic about it because I think it's unfair that we cancel Chrisette Michele and then we gave life to Kanye West. Not all of us. I'm just saying a lot of conversation in mainstream media has humanized Kanye and even gave him a pass in regards to mental health. But nobody has ever even thought about Chrisette Michele. But that's neither here nor there. And in terms of humanity, last but certainly not least, the reason why I wanted to make an unpopular opinion video in the first place is because I watched the Rachel Dolezal story. And after watching it, sitting on it, pondering on it, I think, first of all, I'm going to say, me personally, I am done canceling her. I actually am going to give life to her. And I know it's like, who are you to even, I know, but this is for me. I'm no longer going to allow me or anyone who I engage in conversation with get away with speaking negatively about her without me having to say something for her. Because I feel as though when you watch the documentary, you'll understand her on a different platform. Now, I am absolutely against the idea of trans race, and I'm absolutely against the idea that you can conflate being transgender and transracial. I'm not going to debate about it nor explain myself. You should do your research. Google is free. Those two do not correlate in the slightest. Trans race is not a thing. It's just not. Period. Point blank. Being black comes with a history that I would hope could never ever be duplicated. But being black is not just about pain, and it's not just about trauma. It's about triumph. It's about years of oppression and also triumph. Being black is so much more than what Rachel Dolezal reduces black to. I think that Rachel is dealing with some cognitive dissonance, and I think that she's dealing with a lot of childhood pathology, family pathology of her family being this horrible, what she equates to her mind as a horrible family, but she also equates them being horrible with their skin color. So because of their skin color, if you watch the interview, when the interviewer said, well, what about, the fact that black people can't be transracial and this and that, somebody finally cornered her, and she basically came out and said, I can't associate myself with my family. I can't. And in that moment, I realized that Rachel Dolezal being black, though it is privilege, it's a privilege to be able to say, well, because this is not working for me in this race, I'm going to choose another. That's privilege, and I don't think she realizes that. And I don't even understand why. I mean, her presence as a white woman would be so much more valid and stronger, and her voice would be so much more important, close to the Jane Elliott's of our community. But yeah, Rachel Dolezal's identification with being black has everything to do with trauma and nothing to do with trans identity. It has nothing to do with it, and that's why I'm being honest and saying so, because I came to that conclusion. I was then able to hear everything else we were saying, and by completely canceling Rachel Dolezal and not watching her story, we actually are neglecting a real black woman in the story who was failed by the system. Rachel Dolezal's parents adopted 3 black children and raised them similar to slaves and beat them, visible scars on the children, and they grew up with very, very traumatic past. And instead of these black children having some type of safety or some type of way to be saved, Rachel Dolezal's story took off much faster due to her parents taking advantage of white supremacy, knowing that, it was easier to exploit Rachel's trauma than it was to deal with the fact that their son not only molested the adopted black daughter, but also Rachel Dolezal. So they used their privilege in a way to kind of like dissipate everything that Rachel is. I do think that Rachel is dealing with some type of a delusion, but that's because of her traumatic past. And I just think that if you all watch it, I think that the social justice warriors, the feminists, the womanists, the black activists, hell, even the Tariq Nasheeds and the Umar Johnsons of the world would have some type of sympathy, empathy for Rachel Dolezal's siblings, and what her ultimate goal was to protect, and that's always and still is her goal. And I just cannot. I no longer will participate in the dehumanization of Rachel Dolezal, because even on my platform I've said that I'm not about dehumanization. I'm all about love, and that's just my thing. And so I just encourage you all to at least watch it and have the conversation, because there's not even conversation about this documentary. And if we just had a simple conversation, because I mean the things that I've seen Black Twitter do, if we could just take from that and focus more on the children, and even if we don't get, you know, and this we as if this is, you know, I have this big platform, but people watch. So the little 100 people who do, you know, even if we take this conversation and just validate her siblings who never had that support, they were adopted as babies into this white religious extremist family who really did traumatize them. We definitely, I mean, something could be done, but to just not have a conversation and completely cancel Rachel Dolezal as a whole, we're neglecting 3 Black people, and it kind of breaks my heart. And I would suggest, and I know it would be hard for Rachel to, because trauma is a thing, and it's very hard to address head on. So I know she's not even at the place of even to recognize that, because she's an older woman. So acknowledging the trauma when she's already learned to just do away and call herself Black, she's not Black. And I'm never going to side with you about that, sis. It's way deeper than that. I know that she'll never do that, but I am concerned about her siblings. And that's just my unpopular opinion. I will no longer participate in the dehumanization. And I don't even think it's dehumanization, but the banter around Rachel Dolezal, because we're doing more harm to the Black community, whether you believe it or not. So, thank you so much for watching. I just had to get this off my chest, because I just felt like I need to say something.